Hello, Greenhouse Youth. Welcome to our podcast. I am so excited that it's finally out.
Me too.
The secret has been revealed, and this is where we're at. So this is Vibe Different with Greenhouse Youth. We have been talking about this for what feels like forever now.
Yeah, a long time.
And I'm really excited that it's finally here. So to introduce myself, if you don't know me, my name is Kat. I'm a youth leader here at Greenhouse Youth, which basically means I hang out with teenagers for fun, and I love to do it. I would do it in a heartbeat any other time. Does
that mean you don't have any friends?
No, I do have friends. They're just all in middle school is what that means.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm also a college student. Go Gators.
Let's
I
go.
cannot wait to graduate. I'm not even going to lie to you guys, but I'm just really out here vibing. No pun intended.
Are you graduating soon?
I am graduating this May. So I'm outie.
Okay.
I'm done.
So you have senioritis yet?
Oh, yes. Senioritis definitely began first day of class in August, for sure.
That's great.
If you're also wondering who this other voice is just coming out of your car speakers, let me introduce you to my wonderful guest. Please introduce yourself.
I thought you were going to introduce me.
No, I feel like you really got this.
Okay. So I'm Brooke. I am the youth pastor at Greenhouse Church, and I'm also a Gator. Go Gators. I am long done with school. An alumni, though. I still bleed orange and blue.
Let's go.
Still love my Gators. If you know anything about me, you know that I love Jesus. I love the Gators. I love coffee. On my spare time, I love to scare people. I've scared you a couple times.
One too many, if you ask me.
Yeah. So those are a few of my hobbies. A little bit about me, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you are anywhere near Brooke, it is very unlikely that you will make it without getting scared.
That's
but
right.
Don't worry, you will probably make it out, so you'll be fine. So Brooke, for some people, they haven't heard from you since last year. I love a good dad joke this time of year. So please tell us what you did over your break. Did you do anything fun?
Well, my family's from Jacksonville. Duval, let's go. Yeah, so I went home. I went to Jacksonville, hung out with my dad. I played some golf. It was only my second time playing a full round of golf.
Tiger Woods.
And I know, it's right. So 1 minute I did feel like Tiger Woods, and the next minute I felt like a toddler who didn't know how to play. So it was fun and frustrating, but it was a good way to spend time with my dad. So I got to do that. Yeah, that was something that was really fun. Went to Passion. You went to Passion?
I did go to Passion.
Yeah. Did you do anything else on your break?
I did. So I went home. I got to hang out with my family. I am Cuban and Puerto Rican, so I think one of my favorite things about going home was my parents cooking. They tore it up in the kitchen. They made those empanadillas, pernil, if you know.
I get it. That's my favorite part too. My family is Italian and Filipino, so we always have good food too. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite parts about going home.
Oh, for sure. So you mentioned that you like football. So I know you were watching that championship game on Monday.
I did watch some of the championship game. Yeah. I was a little disappointed. If I had to vote between one of the two, I would have picked Alabama, just because I dislike Georgia even more. So that's fair. That's fair. I asked you who you wanted to win, and you told me Alabama because they're in the SEC.
Yeah, so it turns out I don't.
So if you know
my
anything about football, you know why that answer is a flawed answer. And we'll just leave it there. If you don't know anything, then, but if you know, you know why that was a flawed answer for Kat. But we both did not get our wish, and Georgia, they did win. It was a good game. But I'm excited about this podcast. You mentioned we have been talking about it for a while, something we've wanted to do. So explain to me a little bit what this podcast is all about. Vibe Different, let me know.
So Vibe Different, I feel like if there's a tagline to define what it means to be in this generation, in this season, it really would be vibing different. What I love when I'm around middle and high schoolers is just seeing how unique they are. I have never been around a group of people who are just so uniquely gifted. They are some of the funniest people I know. I'm unashamed to say, like, they make me laugh harder than anyone else. And they also are just so gifted. I mean, some of the minds that we have in that room on a Wednesday night, it's just insane to me.
Yeah.
And with all of that being said, they are also in a really difficult time. I mean, we'd be, like blind to not acknowledge the fact that what we're going through in life right now, it's really hard. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. She has not gone away. We are in the midst of just so many different things. I feel like it's a different, unprecedented historical event literally every 2 seconds. But we are still meant to be in this generation. And I really do believe that if you are called for a certain time, which they were, God is really going to equip you for that. And so if you're meant to vibe different, which we are, that means you're going to be here. You're going to bloom where you're planted, and you're not going to move or bend to, you know, the waves or the wind. You're not going to bend to what's going on in society. You're going to keep that uniqueness that you have. And that's really what I see with this generation. And it really is exciting to see in them.
Yeah. Okay. So what is, help me out. All right. So you're Gen Z.
Yes.
You are Gen Z.
I am
so,
on the tail end.
What does it mean to vibe in the first place?
To vibe?
You know? Yeah, explain what's a vibe.
Okay, so if I were to just give examples without a definition, this podcast is a vibe.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Okay.
Going to get coffee, for example. Okay, I step outside of my house on a Saturday morning. The leaves are falling. The temperature is really nice, and my friends are like, I'm on my way to pick you up. We're going to get coffee. Mm-hmm. That's a vibe.
Okay.
It's like really hitting.
Do you know the definition of a vibe?
Yeah. So now that you have those context clues, the definition makes more sense. So it's a feeling that reaches like beyond the soul. Not even the soul. We're going beyond
the soul. Okay.
The soul.
She's changing the
yeah, I've decided to change
bit.
definition. It's beyond the soul.
Okay.
So if you're vibing different, it means you've still got all those feelings, but it's not the same as everybody else. You're on a different vibe.
Yeah. So I think one of the things we said, and because we actually in Greenhouse Youth are in a series. So even to kick off the podcast, we are talking about vibing different. Yeah. And so what we want to say though is more than a feeling that reaches your soul, is it's also a faith that reaches your soul. Because to vibe different, it takes some type of faith to do that. Yeah. And a lot of this comes out of what we're talking about, like to vibe different means different from the world, right? And so Jesus hit on this. And one of the key scriptures we're going to talk about is in John 17, right? So, and I think, do you want me to read that verse?
Yeah.
So I have it. So I'm going to read it in a different version here. But it says, so in John 17, verse 13, it says, this is Jesus. He's praying. So he's praying this prayer before he knows what is about to happen. He's about to be crucified. He's about to leave. And so he's praying this prayer about his disciples. And it says, now I'm coming to you. I told them many things while I was with them. So that's his disciples. I told them many things when I was with them in this world so they could be filled with joy. I've given them your word, and the world hates them because they do not belong to the world, just as I don't belong to the world. So Jesus is bringing up this point that they don't belong to the world. He doesn't belong to the world. Verse 15 says, I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but to keep them safe from the evil one. So Jesus wants them in the world. They don't belong to this world any more than I do. And then he goes on, he talks about making them holy by your truth. Teach them your word, which is truth. And this whole idea of not being in this world, just as you sent me into this world, I am sending them into this world. And so it's kind of this complex verse because it has all these different things where it's like you're supposed to be in this world, but not of this world. And yeah, so what, even just thinking about this verse, what does it mean to be in the world and not of it?
Yeah. So I feel like when I first read that verse, I remember my sister actually, my first day of high school, wrote it for me on an index card and like taped it to the bathroom mirror. So when I was getting ready, she wrote this.
Let's
and
go,
she
sister.
Said, yeah, shout out Kim. She said on the back, she was like, this is your reminder that you may not be liked by everybody. Not everybody is going to understand you. And there's going to be a lot of situations where you may be tempted to force yourself to fit in, but don't even bother forcing yourself to fit in because you were never meant to do that. And the reason why you were never meant to is because of whose you are. And as a Christian, I belong to God. I'm God's. I'm not my own. And so being in this world of not being of it really does just mean recognizing that God placed me here. So UF, a little fun fact, wasn't my first choice in school. That's a whole
what
other
was your
story.
first choice?
You know what? My first choice, I'm going to just go ahead and say my first choice was FSU.
The enemy.
Yeah, it was Florida State.
So you would say once you were blind, but now you could see.
Yes, now I can see. God removed the garnet and gold scales from my eyes. But I recognize now that where God needed me was here at UF. So he placed me in this world. Does that mean I'm supposed to look like every single college student here? Absolutely not. Because if you walk around a college campus on a Friday night, you may not want to do that. But God still needs me here. And so I can see how he's placed me here, or even friend groups. So I am not the same as all of my friends. Growing up, I have always been usually the only believer in my friend group. Does that mean I'm supposed to ostracize them and judge them and ridicule them? Absolutely not. I'm going to love them the way Jesus did, because I know that he sent me to them, but I'm not supposed to look like them. And that's okay. It's really freeing when you realize, oh, wow, I don't have to fit into anyone else's expectation. Like, I'm just here to vibe different.
What's the distinguishing thing, like when you're saying like them versus you? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think it really is somebody who like really knows the love of God, who is like loved by God, who is in that manner. I know, and I'm sure everyone can think of people who maybe identify as Christian, aren't really Christian. So even just taking that label, like putting that aside for now, it's somebody with a relationship with God. So I was a Christian, quote unquote, my whole life. I grew up in a Christian home, PK, shout out. But really strengthening my relationship with God is what made the difference of me standing out. That's what gave me the confidence that, oh, wow, I'm not going to do the same things. I'm not going to talk the same. I'm not going to act the same. I'm not going to dance the same. It really did start to separate me, because now it was like dating somebody. If I'm dating somebody, I'm not going to act the same way I would with them with every guy I'm around, because then that is not a relationship. So I'm different. I'm separated from them because of who I'm with. Yeah, probably not.
Okay, that makes sense. So I mean, that's true. That's what Jesus is talking to. He's talking to the disciples here. Like he's bringing out. So I think that is something that you have to be clear on before we could talk about being not of this world. Yeah. That is a message for people who are of a different kingdom, who love Jesus, who have accepted Jesus, who have this new identity. So it's not like, if you don't have that new identity first, then this whole thing would be very tough to do.
Yeah, definitely. So, Brooke,
yes,
what's the tea about Jesus and this whole verse? It says here that he was also hated. So can you like break that down for us?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, you would think when you have the God of the universe, this guy who is, I mean, I think everyone, when they think of Jesus, even Christians, well, I don't know if everyone, I think people want the big character that everyone wants Jesus to have, like character trait, I think, is love. I think that's good. But I do think we've misunderstood love in some ways. So, because you would think that, okay, if Jesus is God, which he is, and he is love, that he would have been the most liked person on the planet. But he actually was not the most liked person on the planet. Like he was radical, but he was going against the status quo in a lot of ways. He was standing up for women in a culture that wasn't always necessarily doing that. He would address things differently. He would talk about sex and marriage differently. He would talk about loving your enemies. Like those were things that was very radical. What he would say, you've heard this said, but now I come to you. I'm abolishing all these laws. All of these things. And so when you see throughout culture, there's always waves of things that are important and not important. No matter what time Jesus would have been a part of in his day, he would have not been liked by everyone. And so that's a really tough thing when you think about this, because when you're in this world, not of this world, this whole idea is, it sounds great until you are the one that is being crucified.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately what happened. He gets crucified, and eventually, when it seems as if whenever you are in this predicament, when you're in this position, when you are doing what the Bible says, a lot of times you are going to get ridiculed for that in some way, even though the greatest command is to love, which is hard.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the biggest things I feel like we even see in our youth group, in our city, and even just experiencing among ourselves. I mean, how many times do well-meaning friends maybe say like, oh, don't be so holier than thou, don't be so like above it all. And part of that just comes to the territory. But I know what brings me a lot of peace is knowing, like I said, we don't have to fit in. So you know what, it was a really hard lesson at first, I'm not even gonna lie, especially being in high school. Nobody wants to stand out. Everyone may say I want to be different, but deep down you want to be different like everybody else. You don't actually want to be the one sticking out. But what was so freeing was knowing that was just never even my assignment. I was never meant to be like everybody else. So even looking at this practically, how would you say we could be in this world but not be of it?
I think practically speaking, you don't want to first go to the do. So when it's like, hey, how can you practically be in this world? I think sometimes people go to, okay, so what do I have to do to not be of this world? Does this mean, I think this is why a lot of people look at a relationship with Jesus and they immediately think rules. And I think a thing you brought up is you just said something like, you're just holier. Like that's a statement. Oh, you're just holier than thou. Like that statement, even that word when we're talking about holiness has been mimicked in such a way, so misunderstood. We've misunderstood the holiness of God. And so it starts with that. Who is God? Because you are going to be a product of what is inside of you. And so if we're to not be of the world, really what we're asking is what I'm asking myself is, how do I get the world out of me? If that makes sense. And I'm trying to get the kingdom in me. So like the Bible talks about his kingdom coming and his kingdom being in you. And so I think one, it starts with looking to God, and God is holy. That's a part of his character. That's a part of who he is. Because God is holy, he's every other attribute. Because God is holy, he is loving, but he's also just. He's also full of mercy. And that is where you get the morality of God, you could say, which is what people equate to rules. So, okay, I have to do all these things. I have to, people will look at it as like, I have to not have sex before marriage. I have to not do this rule. When really you have to first look to Jesus, who he is. He's a holy God. And when you accept Jesus, you partake and you get this new identity. Once you get a new identity, what happens is what's happening inside of you. So when something changes and shifts inside of you, it's going to reflect outside of you. And that's how you become not of this world, because the music you used to listen to, it bothers you.
That'll preach.
It should bother you. So it's not that you stop it because it's a rule. You stop it because when you listen to someone else degrading other people, they're going against human dignity. God, that's what God cares about. He loves like the dignity of people. Then all of a sudden, you don't care about the beat anymore. Because you're tired of like songs putting down other people. What you watch should start to bother you, like, because you're a new person. You see something and it should bother you because it's creating feelings that you shouldn't have. The way you talk, it doesn't change because you tried really, really hard not to say that bad word. Because it's a posture of your heart. It's what's happening on the inside. And so the way you don't talk about other people, that changes, not because it's a rule, but because you actually do start to genuinely love people, and you don't want to distort their image to other people. You don't want them to think differently of them. You don't want to gossip about them. So to practically be in this world and not of it, first takes Jesus being in you.
That's good.
And I think and that's like the biggest thing. Like if you try to do a bunch of rules before you ever get in this relationship with God, then that's where you get to legalism. And we're striving for holiness, not for legalism. And there's a big difference there. So there's a danger in this for sure, because whenever you do pursue holiness, other people start to feel judged. And I think that you've experienced this too. So I don't know. I would love for you to hit on that a little bit of like, what do you do? Like, I think that's a tension in this topic. Like, what do you do if someone's going to start feeling judged by you vibing different? But yeah, if you would speak on that, I think that'd be good.
So it definitely, I don't think it's a matter of will this happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen, because we even heard last week in our series, once you are exposed to somebody's righteousness, it's actually exposing your unrighteousness, and that's going to make you uncomfortable. Now, when the roles are reversed and now you are exposing somebody else's unrighteousness, whether that's on purpose or not, people are going to start to get really uncomfortable. So I know for me, I really saw that happening a lot in friend groups, and I didn't really notice that my friends didn't feel as comfortable coming to me. Before, I was kind of the mom of the friend group, so everybody always brought all the tea, all the drama to me, and they're like, please help me fix it. And I always loved to. I loved hearing them out. You
loved hearing all the tea?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. Yeah, I did, but God's changing me. So, but I also I've always loved talking to people. So even being able to be that person was something I really enjoyed. And once I started noticing, like, oh wait, so-and-so and so-and-so just broke up, and nobody told me about it. Like, that's weird. Normally they'd have been like, hey, should I? And so I just started to like pick up on stuff like that. And it took me having a conversation, even in one instance with one of my friends, and them letting me know, like, hey, like, I'm just really scared that because I know I'm not living a life like you, like, I know I'm doing some pretty ratchet things right now. I'm scared of you. You're not going to want to be my friend, that you're not going to love me anymore. And my heart broke in that moment. I just remember crying. Like, both of us were just crying, having this conversation. And I just remember telling that person, like, hey, I am not going to judge you. You're right. My lifestyle and your lifestyle may be very different. What I am going to do is I'm going to love you the way God loves you. And God loves you no matter what. He's not always pleased with what you're doing, but that's not changing his love. And that's not going to change my love for you. And it took me being really intentional with my actions and my words. And it took a lot of thought, because what once may have been like condoned, I had to make sure, like, hey, I need people to know, not with my words saying, hey, I don't support that. I needed to just live differently. But that happened naturally. Like you said, eventually the music getting played in the back of the car, like, it made me uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to hear that. Or, the movies being played, like, I just don't want to see that. And so lovingly, like, you know what, guys, can we just put on something else? Like, I'm feeling something else right now. And eventually people will notice, and it sparks really great conversation when you get to say, like, oh, why? Well, honestly, like, I don't really vibe with that anymore. Literally, I probably said that statement 1,000 times to just in so many different situations, like, oh, why this? Well, I just don't really vibe with that anymore. It's just not really what I like to do. Even if it was something subtle, like talking about people, we live in a society where I think gossip, it happens so easily. Most people don't even think they're doing it. It's like,
yeah, Christians like to do it too.
Oh yeah,
they like just call it prayer requests.
Literally, can you pray for so and so? They did this, and you're like, oh, and you don't even pray about it. You just sit there and you think about it, and you go spread it to somebody else and tell them to pray too. But when you really think about it, even something as simple as when somebody's talking about somebody else, saying, like, you know what, guys, like, let's just change the subject. Like, we don't really need to be talking about them. They're not here. They can't defend themselves. And some people are just going to stay mad. They're going to be haters. They're going to be upset. But other people really are going to be interested in, oh, wow, so this is somebody I can trust. For the first time, I found somebody, I mean, bless my mom's heart, my cute little Spanish mom. She would always tell me, what they'll do with you, they will do to you. So if I was like gossiping in the back of the car, if I was gossiping in the back of the car with one of my friends, as soon as like I was home, she let me know, just so you know, if so-and-so is gossiping with you, they're gossiping about you. And they know that you're doing the same thing. And I was like, oh, dang, read the room, why don't you? And so even something as simple as that is just choosing not to do that. You become trustworthy, and that's how people see, oh, you love me. Oh, I can trust you. Like, I can confidently say, like, the people that I know really love me are the people that I know that I can trust, because they have proven to me over and over again that I'm safe with them, that they've got my back. And so that to me is a form of love. And so I just know that they're going to be with me. But the danger is that you don't want to kill those relationships. So I would say the biggest thing is just let what you do be done in love, because what's done in love is done well. That's like a phrase that I really try to just like live by and keep at the forefront of my mind. So if I see like a friend isn't really maybe doing what they're supposed to be doing before I'm quick to call them out or quick to, let me just like go help them out, give them some advice. Am I doing it because this is a really great chance to show how righteous I am? Or am I doing it because I love them and I care about them? And that should be my indicator. And if it's not because I love them, then I need to be praying to God to really get my heart right. And so even now, like my prayer has just been, God, let me love people the way you do, because when I love people the way you do, that's going to definitely reflect in what we see. So even for you, we have been, I feel like the pull a lot of times in this generation is I'm scared that I'm like going to lose all my friends, or I'm scared to stick out. Have you had any experiences like that? What can you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I lost a bunch of friends when I started following Jesus. And some of it is probably on me. Like some of it I could have done better on. Yeah. Some of it is just because they were hurt, because maybe our friendship was more so based in what we did rather than like who we were. Yeah. And so obviously if my lifestyle was going to change, then I think that would naturally pull you apart. But then I also had some friends who told me, hey, no matter what you believe, I still love you. And so it was really important. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's still something that's really tough. You'll still get people who will judge you for certain things that you have. And it's like what you said, like I really did have like a light bulb moment to say like, oh, I really do believe that when you are righteous, which means you are just in right relationship with God and people, when you are righteous, when that meets someone else's unrighteousness, it exposes it. And so that makes you feel uncomfortable. I know what that's like. I know what it's like when I've met someone who, like I remember when I was like traveling with a friend and I was just like, well, let's just, I want a cheaper hotel. So let's just lie to them. Like we could tell them we only have 4 people. And he was like, no, like that's not what we're going to have integrity. And we'll tell them the truth and we'll just pray that God will give us favor. And I was
let's go favor.
Okay. And in the moment, it was like I had 2 ways to respond, like, oh, well, aren't you just so holy, which is what some people do, or like, you know what, actually I want to be like that. There was a side of me, the defensive side of me, the pride in me that wanted to be like, okay then, like, because when someone does something that it's pointing out the parts of you that are wicked or twisted or just not completely right. Like I was just like, nothing wrong in that. And the Lord really did work on my heart through that of like, wow, I do want to have integrity at all times. But I think we all know what it's like to be around someone else who does something good and it makes you feel like a bad person. But that's actually a gift, I realized. That's what conviction is. That is conviction. And I think we have took conviction and we try to run away from it at all cost. And we've run away from a really great gift God has given us because we were created in his image. That's why we have these convictions, because there's a part deep within us that knows that's just not me. And so I think like it's a tough thing. I think the way you navigate it is like what you said it perfectly. It just has to be in love. Like we don't do things thinking that we are better than someone. I know my friend didn't think he was better than me because he wasn't going to lie. And the way he talked to me about it, because it was done so loving and it wasn't like, you should never think that. It made me change the way I do things. Like living in a town where you need student IDs for everything. I'm always tempted to, pull out my Gator One and be like, hey, give me that student discount. But there was something within me that was like, what, actually I want to have integrity, and that's only because of the way he loved me. It made me think through that situation a little bit differently. So yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, so there you have it, guys. That's a little bit about vibing different.
Let's go.
If you guys want to know any more about it, just know this is only the beginning. The best really is yet to come. I'm going to say that boldly. I'm going to declare it.
Let's go. Okay.
We will be posting episodes every other week, bi-weekly, if you will, on all the streaming platforms. So Spotify, Apple, even YouTube, if you're more of a visual learner, get right with it. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a really just cool season to be in. I know even for me, I feel like I'm 1,000 years old. I'm not actually that old.
You're not. Don't say
that.
But
even with where I'm at in life, I feel like this is something I'm always learning. But it's been just a really gracious time of learning to just be okay with being different. But God is so faithful, and he really has always covered that and just made it so worth it. Like I wouldn't trade that for anything. So before we close off, I think it's only fair for people to get to know you just a little bit better.
Okay.
You think that's fair? Okay.
Sure.
So we are going to do just a really speed round of interview questions, except
interview questions. I hate interviews.
But that's the tea, is that we're vibing different. So it's not a regular schmegular interview. Back. Yes, you can ask me questions back. That's a fair deal. Bet. Okay. So let's begin. Cat or dog?
Dog.
That's the right answer. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, my cat, I think it's because I had a possessed cat growing up.
Ma'am, do you want to talk about it?
No.
Okay, and that's why
I've already had healing. I've already had healing for that.
Okay, great. She's already had healing about that. Okay, next question: ice cream or cookies?
Oh, cookies. Hands down.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Cookies,
also,
chocolate chip cookies all day.
Yeah, I'm sorry to anyone who's lactose intolerant because I personally love a scoop of ice cream. Okay, last question, and this one I think it's like a good one. Okay. So Gators football.
Okay.
Or Jacksonville Jags football.
Oh, Gators all day. You must not know football because Jacksonville Jaguars haven't been good since they were established. But go Jags still. I'll still always root for the Jaguars. But Gator football all day long. College football.
So the team NFL. You like depends on
there's
them
a difference.
Winning?
Jaguars is NFL.
No, I know that. Yeah.
And
National Football League.
Yeah. Trying to help educate you some. Okay. Good questions.
You got questions for me?
Sure. Do you have a crush on anyone right now? Just kidding. Yeah. Okay. Why don't you tell us real quick, if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Steak.
Okay. That's good.
I love animals, though. Please don't get it mistaken.
You do love animals, but you're not a vegetarian.
I'm not, but I'm working on that.
You want to be a vegetarian?
No, I'm just working on being okay with loving animals and eating them.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. All right. That's my only question I have for you.
I just wanted to stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah.
Great. So, like I said, guys, you can check us out every other week here on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever you're listening out of. We also have our youth services at Greenhouse Youth. Definitely check us out. You can follow us on Instagram to stay updated. You can also follow us on TikTok. But the last thing we're going to do is I have a challenge for you guys. And every podcast, there's going to be a challenge. Yeah, it's a chance for you guys to win.
Technically.
Yeah. You are a challenger. If you didn't know, you are. So here's the challenge. You guys are going to go find somebody that you don't normally talk to. Maybe it's like that one kid that sits in the corner of your math class that you go out of your way to avoid. You know who you are. Or maybe it's just somebody like at the grocery store. If you're an introvert, I'm sorry, but I'm sure that you'll be okay. And if you're an extrovert, you're living for this. You're like, bet, tell me more. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a person you don't normally talk to, and you're going to have just a quick conversation with them. You don't got to like get all deep and personal. I mean, do you? But, ask
so I just walk up to you. Hey.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it? No, that's too short. That's a sentence, not a convo. So more than like what you would use to like silence their DMs, more than like a, hey, what's happening, So maybe like, what's your favorite color? What do you like to do in your free time? Like, oh, word, you just moved here from where? Get to know them a little bit more. And then you're going to DM Greenhouse Youth with just your experience. What happened? Was it awful? If it was awful, it's okay. You can tell us that. Did you make a new friend? I personally, I met my best friend in Spanish class freshman year. Turns out we were on the swim team together for the first 2 weeks. Didn't know it until our teacher did attendance, and I thought I was the last person in the row because I didn't see him, and she called his name and it said here, and I was like, oh, hey, I know you. And we bonded over how hard we thought the team was. And so now I have a lifelong friend from that. So great. Share your story and your experience. Every other week, we're going to have a different challenge, something different for you guys to get into. So be sure to do that, and be sure to check out all of our pages and stay up to date with everything. I cannot wait to get to hear from you guys and just talk more with you guys later. I think it's going to be really great. We'll see you.